Howdy, this is Liz, and I am participating in the Friendly Junk Journal People Facebook page 12 Days of Christmas project this year. And one of the videos I'm going to be doing is on how I assemble a flow style junk journal. And the purpose of these videos is to get people to use their craft materials and skills to make homemade gifts, particularly with a junk journal type theme this year for the holidays. So everybody does their flow style junk journals a little bit differently. A flow style junk journal is one that is designed for you to hold pieces that you would like to then use in your own craft projects. And some people make them and use them themselves. They trade them, they sell them. I have made and sold several of them in two different types. One of them I use a hardcover book as the outer casing, and it holds a lot, and then the spine can be used in a project. This one is a smaller one, and instead of a book, it has a scrapbook paper outside. And I quite like these. They're very versatile, and I like being able to reuse all the materials, including the scrapbook paper. And this, the inspiration for this was a pad of paper that I got that was green and sort of this light vintage brown and peach colors. And it's a heavier scrapbook paper stock. It's reversible, and I like that. Decided to make a bunch of these to sell on Etsy. So there are a bunch of these, if you like these, available. So when I start my covers, I always go with a thicker piece of cardstock to give it some stability, and I score it at 6 inches, which is right down the middle for a 12 by 12 piece of cardstock. And then if you have a scoreboard, the easy way to do that is to turn it and then score it at 9 inches so that you have 3 inches folded up. I like this size. It's 6 inches by 9 inches, an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. Fits there easily. If I want to put more cardstock in, it's in a 6-inch increment, so it fits nicely side to side. And then I use washi tape, which is removable, to hold the flaps closed to make pockets in the front and back. So the cover is really easy to make. And from there, I go and I pull coordinates from my stash. And I'm looking for things that go with the peach, the green, the brown, and I went with sort of a vintage looking theme as well. So I have sheet music, I have vintage receipts, I have grid paper, and the 6 by 9 size means that most of these don't need to be cut down, which is very handy. This is a coordinating sheet of scrapbook paper cardstock, so I cut this right in half this way, so I get 2 6-inch pieces for different books. I have some vintage things that are kind of precious to me and I make copies of. This is a book in Polish, actually, so that's a copy. These are vintage papers, and when I disassemble books, in an ideal world, and I say in an ideal world, this doesn't always happen, the book is bound in such a way that you can get out 2 pieces of attached paper so that you don't have to put it in this way and fold it. This hymnal came apart that way. This book, which is very old and falling apart, did not. It did not cooperate. But I love it when they come apart this way. Same thing here. So as many pages as I can get, this is an old book in Spanish, to come apart that way, I love it. But 8.5 by 11 pages get folded this way in the book. Another piece of scrapbook paper, an old inventory sheet, book on birds. This is a book that I took a doily and alcohol ink sprayed and sprayed through the doily. Again, this is another beautiful page that I have copied. I have this ledger. It starts in 1915 and I think goes to 1917. It's an old tailor shop, and this was their ledger for keeping track of who'd ordered suits. Old Sears catalog. This is actually a reproduction, but the pages were exposed to a lot of sunlight, I suspect, and faded quite a bit. Old books. This is a train schedule that I got from Europe, and it's from like 1976. And it looks older, but I just love the pages. And again, another piece of scrapbook page. These are great because they're double-sided and they're a little bit heavier. And I think I got this idea from Linda Israel. These are 2 envelopes that I've taped together with washi tape down the center for the loose bits that won't go into the bulk of the book, because there are always loose bits that won't go into the bulk of the book. So essentially the back half is all of the other sides of the sheets that we just saw, and I score these on my scoreboard mostly. Some of them it's easy enough just to fold in half, so if you don't have a scoreboard, that's a really easy thing to do. And I set it inside the cover just like that. And when I am at this point, I tend to tie it. And I have already cut to length my ties. I'm using 3 different pieces of yarn. This is a hand-done piece of wool that's hand-dyed, and this is a synthetic multicolor piece, and this is a cotton pearl. And I like that it was brown and green and orange, just like the colors of the book. And I turn this sideways and get it so it's about centered this way, and then fold that over. And I've already done this wrong. Don't make it even. Make it so that one side's a little bit shorter, and then wrap the other side around back through the center this way. And when you have that done, you can see that there are 2 loops on the inside, 1 on the outside, and then tie it. And one of the things that I have learned is not to tie it too tightly, because I still have to get things into the end pockets, and having a little bit of play in this really helps. So that holds that together. Alright, so now that we have the basic book done, we're going to go ahead and put things into the front pocket. And I love having pockets on the book because there are always things that don't fit nicely into the center. So this is an oversized page that I had to cut down a bit to get in here, and actually it may need to be trimmed a little bit more. And then I have cardstock. I have a wonderful vintage page from a children's book, which I know from past experience, this paper is so delicate it won't fold. So I cut it into 2 pieces so that it would go in the front pocket. I had some scrapbook paper that had a great background that coordinated and had these little cards that are ready to be cut out, and I left them in case people wanted to fold them. So what I'm looking for when I'm putting together a flow journal is stuff that other people don't have, unique things. This is from a book on the history of lace. This, my husband got a Cricut machine. Anything with a plug, any craft toy he just loves. So he's been making me little doilies on his Cricut, and so that is going to go in there. And this is another one of those pre-made tags. So this is going to go in the front pocket, and it helps to slide the pages over to get that in there. And I like to layer it with the large things at the back and the smaller things up front, so that when you open it, it's pretty. And then I just flip this over and I go to the back pocket and I slide my yarn and my contents down a little bit. And in the back pocket, I have a book page on making shaker furniture, more of those tags, stamped card that's going to go in there, and a piece of scrapbook card, a bridge tally, another piece of coordinating scrapbook card. This is a very small page that I tucked in the back. This is in a book of electrics, particularly on train electrics and brakes. This is a print from a book on art, which has a lovely book picture by Gainsborough, and some more of those little cards that coordinate. So that goes in the back. And then from there, I start attaching pieces to the cardstock that I've put in here. You can paper clip things to the pieces of paper, but I really like to have a couple of pieces of cardstock in here to attach things to, because I often end up with pretty little stamped cards like this that I want to put in there. And so I will paper clip that on, and it's just sturdier putting it on the cardstock. And here's another one. Put these there. I have little coordinating pieces to make the pages interesting. So put those in there. And there's one for here. It's a small piece of cardstock, so I'm just going to offset that so you can see that and the stamped image that I did, which is a vintage timepiece. And then sometimes when I have little things that need to go in, I will put them in an envelope, because I always end up with extra envelopes. And I recently went shopping at my mother's house and managed to acquire her vintage button collection. So for each of these little booklets I put together a sort of a cameo button, a signature, interesting one, a couple of different vintage ones, some that are more modern. And then I also had a couple of little pieces in here. These are vintage thread spool art, and they're little circles, and these are great for embellished paper clips. So these are on cardstock, and I just picked a couple of different ones and put them in here with the little pieces, the tiny little buttons. And I like to put that over a piece of cardstock and put a big paper clip on there to keep it on. So here's another piece of cardstock. And adding a little contrasting piece of cardstock behind it gives it a little bit of pop and makes it look more interesting. And let's see, one more. Got some pretty bird cages. Oh, and I have one more piece. I'll just tuck that back there in the back. So then I have still more pieces that are going into this central envelope flap here. So I picked out some coordinating fabrics, and I think I have 13 little 3-inch squares of fabrics, and I've just lined them out so that you can pick what you'd like to go and embellish tags or bookmarks or pages. And I tuck those right in there. I think this little one's going to get wrinkled. Let's straighten that one out. So you can sort of see them and pull out the one that you want. And then fold that flap over. And here are the other coordinating tags. Sometimes I will put them all on paper clips in the book. The paper clips do add to the bulk, and if I know that I'm going to be mailing it, I want it to be sort of flat. So sometimes I don't use all the paper clips and put them in there. So these will get tucked into here. I had another tall one of these that I didn't use. I like to start people off with some tags that have the paper already decoupaged to them and they're cut out. So put in a couple of little tags in here. This is just some scrapbook paper that sort of coordinated with the design that I had picked. Those little bits get tucked in there. and then some other small stamped pieces and coordinating colors that can be incorporated into pages and tags and tuck spots. All of those. Those get tucked in there as well. And the little flaps help keep them in, but they're easy to see and find. And at this point, if you want to tighten up the cord a little bit, you can. But I am going to be doing videos on these, so I sometimes will leave them loose. I'm not too worried about it sticking out around the edges because I know that I'm going to put this in cardboard and mail it off to whoever purchases this one. So this is how I make my easy, small flow junk journals. I hope that you are inspired to go make some and send off this lovely pile of crafting goodness to somebody that you would like to help in their craft projects or getting started in junk journaling. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.